So what do I have just a little paperwork for our meeting here that I'm filling out, but we can start whenever you would like, Tony. So,
Yes.
just because I'm writing down attendee names does not mean I'm not really thinking.
Sure.
So.
Well, we have quite a few materials that have been placed at your seat, and most of it focuses on some preliminary homework, and I want to review that with you. Ryan, with the beginning of our meeting, do you have any introductory comments and things that you want to focus on in terms of the work that needs to be done during this meeting?
No, what really needs to happen is if you can go ahead and pull up the agenda, that's really what we're focused on. It's the topics for discussion, and there should be 8 topics there. Starting with establishing the timeline for the superintendent search and going off of that. So we understand that your time is valuable. I've seen this meeting go anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours. So it all just depends on the discussion, but we're excited to start the process. We know it's a fast-moving process for you. We're aware of that, and just glad we could be here today. So, Madam Chair, if you're all right in discussing the timeline, that would probably be the first place we can start.
I think that's a perfect place to start, actually.
Yeah, it's the orange sheet, if you haven't pulled it up.
This one?
Yes, no, the orange, deep orange.
I know, but this is timeline here.
Oh, it probably has the same thing.
Oh, and.
Yeah, so one is, the topics for discussion is the agenda for today, and then this pink is the
Okay.
suggested timeline.
Very good.
Um,
So as you can see, we are meeting today to conduct our very earliest planning meeting possible, and what we would like to do is to be sure that we examine this timeline that will result tentatively in a final meeting with following the last interview, and that is expected to take place on June 6th. The first week of June. We need to begin preparing several pieces of information with regard to the promotional flyer and get approval by the board, and develop an online application form with the district representative. We need to also talk about who are the people that I will be in contact with, who represents the board and who represents the district office. And if we can get clarification there, that would be really helpful. So,
Well, I think if we look at the timeline, we know we got one day right. And that's the first one there. It says 4-4, so we're on track. Looking at stage 2, would it be okay to go ahead and get that online survey link for input, which consists of that 33 characteristic survey that we want your constituents and community to fill out, set up for 4-6 to continue on to 4-13. Is that still okay?
For sure, and Leanna, feel free to weigh in at any point. So,
Did you hear the question?
Yes, I did.
the online survey, so I was going to talk about thought exchange for a minute.
Okay, and I just had a question. Ryan, hi, this is Leanna Albrecht. I'm the communications director for the school district.
Ma'am.
So question for you regarding the 33 characteristics, is that an external survey that you already have crafted? Or is that something that communications office will create using SurveyMonkey, etc.?
That is something that is already crafted.
Okay.
It's something that we've been using and updating over the years.
Okay.
It used to be 28 characteristics survey that we've developed, and now it is up to 33. So
Okay.
it's a survey that your community can log in, or when we're on the ground and meeting with constituents, they can fill out some paper if they wish.
Okay.
But out of those 33 characteristics, they can only select 10.
Okay.
Okay, and then also on that survey, whether they do it on paper or they do it online,
Uh-huh.
there's a blank space for them to write whatever they want. So if
Okay,
they have a concern about a school being closed, if they have concern about a bond issue, if they have concern about the process or anything, whatever they write on that open space, we actually do not edit any of it. So when we come back and present the findings to the board will be able to review every single written piece that the community members want to let them know.
okay, Dr. Apostle just gave us a copy. That is something we can very quickly turn around. And the other thing I would just like to bring to the board's attention when we're looking at the timeline, there is a copy for board members and folks of here key dates within the school district from now to the end of the year. If we are going with the current cutoff date of 4/13, that is during spring break, which could be a challenge for our stakeholder groups. So something to keep in mind. So that's all the info I had.
So for you to know, what we would do is we would have our staff contact you, your communication department, and simply we'll give you the link that you can go ahead and place on your website.
Okay.
Will that work? Okay.
So,
Easy.
so maybe what would be helpful, because we do have this spring break starting April 11th, and Ken had a question here, but
Before we, just a point of order, both Dr. Apostle and Ray know that this is a public meeting and it's being recorded.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we had that, because if there was any question about
Thank
that.
you for
Yeah,
the reminder.
Yeah, just wanted to remind
Thank
you.
you.
Sorry. Yeah, it was just a point of information.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. So, in terms of, it might be helpful, I know for me personally, and perhaps for other board members, to kind of step back and start talking about the community engagement in general, because we have this spring break week on April 11th. So, the survey, the online survey, which we talked about, we have this idea about meetings with constituent and stakeholder groups, and just some clarification that would be helpful for me. So we're talking about more questions about qualities for the superintendent, more so than process. We're gathering community input in terms of qualities desired for superintendent, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And yeah, and then, sorry, we kind of got on the online survey link right there. If you look at under stage 1, or 4.6, it says contact constituents and stakeholders for those input meetings.
Okay.
Would that still be able to be done on 4.11 through 4.12?
No,
Yeah,
because of spring break.
Oh, okay. That's
Spring break is the 11th through the 15th.
So week 11 through the 15th. Okay. So would we want to contact constituents and stakeholders?
Oh, you could contact them.
We can't.
It's to let them know about it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, contacting them would basically be setting up something,
We send it
student
to them.
districts do robocalls, send home things with students, have something in the paper, with the news, all kinds of different options that you can do with just letting people know that the events will be coming up in the future.
So, just to clarify, these meetings with stakeholders, it's a representative from each, correct?
It depends on how you want to do it. We usually try to have it set up where there's no more than 15 people. So if you want us to meet with central office staff, then you may have 15 to 20 people. If you want us to meet with teachers, like high school teachers, we can do that. Bus drivers do that. Business leaders do that. We just want to make it manageable. So we usually find 15 to 20 people from those groups being represented, usually the best.
So if spring break would be a barrier for our internal and external stakeholders, however, we could then work to communicate and get those set up the 18th and 19th, which would be the Monday, Tuesday of the next week. And I think that is very doable.
Yeah, sometime during the week of the 18th to the 22nd.
Yes.
Wouldn't necessarily have to be forced into a Monday, Tuesday,
Okay.
but it could be spread out
Okay. We can
with
make
various
that.
groups. And I guess what we want to do is identify which groups you want to select to have a formal presentation.
Okay.
Right, now we're getting down into our topics for discussion into number 2. So do you want to do that first, or do you want to finish this time?
Well, let's finish the timeline.
Actually,
Okay.
before we leave the survey component of the timeline, and help me understand, I have concerns that once we hit spring break, the constituents will check out of school issues and not be focused on filling out the survey. Do we want, I just have worries that having a deadline at the end of the survey being smack dab in the middle of this week, either, to me, it makes sense either to extend it out till after spring break is over or ending it Friday. I just worry that we're not gonna see
I
much
think
happening
you
that
raise
way.
a good point. It is a rather rapid return, and what do the rest of you think?
Extend it.
Yeah, I think extending it, and the other thing about the survey is the group, because I think we have some animated and very vocal communities, and trying to make sure that, you know, because sometimes you can count this number of people said that, and that may not be a real accurate count of, you know, we don't have to be voting per se, but the more we can find out where the people are coming from. I know, like in SurveyMonkey, when I did something like this, we sent out separate links to each group. So we sent a separate link, would be like to the bus drivers, got a separate link from the teachers, from the others. You can still have a generic one on the webpage, but you could send out these links by email, and then you know if they're responding to that, they're more likely coming from a perspective. I think trying to capture that, and then you have the cloud of whether it's teachers or bus drivers or paraeducators or administrators or community members.
Well, actually, when they do their survey,
Yeah.
it asks, are you an administrator, are you a parent, are you like a, somebody from the community? It checks.
Oh, so that group, is that on?
To see how many you got.
Okay, so that, what we call, what's on the survey that we have in paper form where it says group, there's gonna be a pull down menu that they click one category?
Yeah.
Okay, then that. And then, so then going then to the timing thing, you know, usually most of your responses fairly quickly, the results really change over time, but I think keeping up for 2 weeks is fine.
Do we have to have it as an either or? We've got a growing issue in our district of thinking that you have to be in one group when really there's a huge amount of overlap. Our bus drivers are also parents,
I-
our community, our teachers.
I think it's important that they identify with one.
Okay.
And so whether it's I'm responding as a parent or what have you, I think it's important for you to see that they've identified that they're with the group. Otherwise, it's why bother asking the question?
But why can't they identify with two groups?
Check all that apply.
Yeah, I don't, why can't, I mean, you're a parent and you also are a bus driver, so.
You're gonna have to ask yourselves, how are you gonna look at the data? It ultimately.
Right, so then, and then
How
from
are
a
you gonna
statistical
break down?
perspective.
But still, they are both.
Right. So then to that question, how I would look at the data is I would look at people that are one only. I would look at everyone who clicked parent, and then I would look at people who clicked more than one. And from having done lots of data analysis, that is not a very difficult kind of a thing to do. And it's usually useful to see that, especially if we see different patterns. But, because I've seen that too.
They're just gonna fill it out twice, many of them.
Well,
If we don't know
right.
that that was happening.
Exactly. So
they
choosing all that
do
apply is
is-
a data analysis question that I think you leave to your data analysis, but it's a solution that people who analyze data have dealt with.
So I know this might seem frustrating, but our community is getting frustrated by not, I mean, I'm hearing it over and over again, by not being able to represent who they truly are. I'm a parent of elementary, junior high, high school potentially, and I'm a teacher. And I know lots of
And
teachers
especially
that
when I'm out of district.
are parents and they're getting frustrated. And so they're just going back in and answering more than one survey, which doesn't necessarily give us accurate representation either of how many people are responding.
So I guess I just go back to, how do you want, you can do it however you want. How will you be looking at the data?
Through that one.
Because the way we have it set up is, I'm trying to remember online, you are a parent, you are a teacher, you are an administrator, you are other, or you are a student, or I believe you can say, you can type what you are. But, I mean, that's usually the way we have it set up, and there may be one or two other things in there.
Does it allow for multiple responses? I guess that's the question. Like, I'm a parent
If
and
you
a
click on
teacher.
the link, it's tied to your IP address.
No, but if in that question, can I check all that apply?
Well, we can make that happen, but you're not gonna be a student, teacher, parent, and administrator.
No, you'd probably be a teacher, parent, or bus driver parent. Like, those are probably the things that that's.
Yeah, it would be a parent and an employee overlap. would
Well, but
probably
that,
be
but
the overlap.
if and I understand, that you could have that as a category if you're having these broad categories of I'm a parent, I'm an employee,
And employee.
I'm a parent
That's good.
and employee, you can add that category in.
Yeah, that's good.
So, because having fewer categories in the cloud that you get around that, but I completely agree with that concern, because I've heard it too, and I think it's a very legitimate concern. You don't want to make them fill out the survey more than once, so just adjust that question.
Ryan,
So we can add employee/parent.
I'm okay with that. What do you guys think? I think we have.
Well, when you say slash, I don't know what you mean, to
To make
employee,
a new category.
employee and
yes,
Yeah.
employee and,
yeah, I would use and rather than slash.
We have a lot.
Okay.
Okay. But let's go back to the question about the timeline for the survey.
Yeah.
So, understanding any of these timeline questions, if this information we're gathering, whether it be the meetings or the survey, I would estimate would go into the flyer, the promotional flyer, correct?
That's
So-
correct.
So
That's
it would
correct. So
bump out.
what we're gonna do is, all the things with the survey is going to be combined with all the, conversations that Tony and I are gonna have with the constituent meeting.
Right.
So the survey is up, that's one piece where we're gonna get information, and then meeting with constituents. Then we have to compile all the information and come back and present to you.
But I think which is fine, I mean, I think that makes sense. If we want to get good data, if we know people are gonna be out of town or mentally disengaged during break, we'd rather affect the whole schedule timeline and get good data, I think, right?
Yeah.
So lots of heads
Yes.
nodding, just making sure we
Yeah.
and we want to be
understand.
sure that once we collect the data, and then the board that conducts its assessment of that data, we have a method by which we communicate it to the community as well.
Right.
And we're also going to try, correct me if I'm wrong, Leanna, and connect with our Hispanic community, and that might take longer too, to get them to fill the survey out, was the
Well,
natural.
actually, we have a Spanish online survey as well that they can fill out.
So, as far as the timeline, I mean, we could send this out by tomorrow evening if in fact the links are already ready. Typically for us with communication, it's great to hear that the survey is already translated into Spanish. We would send out the notifications in both English and Spanish to our families. And we would just work to make sure whatever communication materials that we have are translated into Spanish as well. The time, extending that timeline is wonderful, at least into halfway into the week after spring break. It would give families enough of an opportunity to reply.
And then on that, given my experience with surveys, the results usually don't change after the first week. Would you be able to start crafting a lot of these materials based on the first week of the survey results, knowing that they're very rarely going to change in terms of some of the marketing materials and other kinds of things? It's like, yeah, you want to leave it open because you want to hear from every single
Sure.
person, we'll look at every piece. But at least once you've given, and if we can get if you get that up by
We
the end of tomorrow, that's awesome. And then,
We could develop a preliminary draft
Right.
Okay,
in anticipation. Yes.
I don't know, because normally we wait and we can't really, we can kind of go in and see exactly what's been clicked on and who's responded, but we're not gonna obviously have a final number. I hate to go ahead and assume that everybody does it the first part of the week and then give some information out there, and then afterwards, there's a big push at the end, and then now all the information is totally changed.
understood.
Understood,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
no,
about-
that's,
it's a possibility, it's not likely, but yeah, you leave that, that's why you draft it, but you just keep going on it. But after a few days of survey research, the results rarely change.
We'll be able to start picking up some of the strongest opinions and some consistencies between groups of people.
Sure.
Correct, but remember, just because we put that up, say, tomorrow or the next day, and the next 3 days, people are online and they're filling out that survey, those same people fill out that survey when we meet with them at the open forums, during the morning, during the day, when we meet with the bus drivers. They're going to fill out those surveys sometimes in person. So we really don't want to compile and give out information from those surveys until we meet with all the constituent groups. And then we send that information to the office where they can compile and get a final result.
Okay.
Okay, we understand that.
Okay?
So we're talking about extending it out, I'm just taking some notes here, through the 20th is the Wednesday. So both meetings and online survey, I mean, if constituent groups can meet earlier, great, but at least have the opportunity, we're not gonna have a deadline until the 20th.
Yep,
Does that sound all right?
yep. I mean, our spring break's late.
Right, it is late,
Unfortunately.
unfortunately.
So
When you
point
say
of
this
clarification,
is
so we're saying that the
still
20th
always
is, we'll get all of the data collected by the 20th.
We're gonna close the survey on the 20th.
I mean,
Closes.
Okay, but that's also, because I heard something new there, that
It's
these
hard.
meetings with the various groups would happen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So then all the data, both online and in face-to-face meetings, will be collected by Wednesday, the 20th.
That's what I understand.
Does that
Okay,
sound
I
right?
was just restating what I thought I heard.
Is that enough time for the community meetings,
Yes,
you think?
it's work, but we can,
Okay.
make contact now.
I guess,
Another date.
so my underlying fear, just to share that, is that I'm worried about the legitimacy of a permanent superintendent if we haven't had the opportunity to really make sure we've got the community input.
I agree.
So that's my underlying fear. So if you feel like we can get quality community input from everyone by the 20th, that we're not shortchanging any of this, then I'm okay. Otherwise, I'd rather see us really do that work and maybe not be able to do a permanent by the end of June. To me, that's more valuable.
Well, right now, we're on the road to have a
And I'm-
permanent,
yes,
but I
I'm saying-
still agree with you, absolutely. We do need to make sure our community feels like they have voice, or you guys
And
will
we
shut
put-
this
right.
whole process
Will
down.
this, will extending it to the 20th be sufficient, in your opinion,
That's my
to
question.
gather the
Would,
information, and will the public perceive that this is a sincere, authentic
Right.
process, given this timeline?
That's the question.
would the 22nd be better, so that there's that full week after the break, just to leave it, because the days, if it's live on the 5th, 15 days, the people who, a lot of people know about this, and they're looking for the opportunity to participate, and it will spread, and then through all the associations, so my sense is 15 to 17 days is absolutely enough time to hear from the community.
Yeah, I think.
And so the 22nd,
Push the whole thing back a week.
well, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly. Push it back a week.
Push everything
So
a
that's
week.
exactly what I'm seeing here.
Yes.
And I would, and correct me if you think I'm wrong here, Leanna, but I would think that getting the word out quickly about the online survey, the trickiness might not be the survey, it might be the meetings, but we would get a grasp on that pretty quick too, in terms of.
Yeah, no, I'm looking to none of us on the board have done this before, so I'm really looking to the experts in the room that have been through this process.
We need to take a look at how many groups, individual groups, want to meet with.
Okay,
I think the inventory, the survey is extended through the 22nd. I believe that's good, that's solid.
okay.
The communications, how soon can we announce that the dates of our meetings with our constituents?
We can announce those as soon as we have them identified,
Okay.
within a couple of hours. And we'll just want to know clearly from the board, who do we want to include in those meetings?
Yep.
So that we start the process of making the invitations out and finding the appropriate locations.
And then we can post this information on all the, because you can still post on the Bothell community group and stuff like that, where we can post your surveys. I mean, we can reach. go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. So our communication plan would be internal and external. So for our internal stakeholders, it would be making sure that all information goes to our union leadership. It also goes to all staff members. And then externally, it would be.
And principals.
Yes, so that's our all employees. And then it also would be externally, we use all of those channels that we have through school messenger, direct phone call, email that goes out to
Yeah.
families,
And the real
our websites, school websites, social media, etc. So I think we're well covered there.
Yeah.
Once we know, and then once you've identified your timeline and exactly what is going to happen, we'll get that up and use that as that repository.
And maybe do a press release in case like Boston Reporter or
And
whatever,
Woodville.
they want to pick it up.
Yeah,
I think that sounds good.
Is there more, because you know how Edmonds used the Everett Herald, is there something like that that's more?
they're already on our distribution list for our news releases. They don't cover us very often. We're usually added on to Everett's, say
Everett.
Seattle, but they're part of our distribution list.
Okay,
So do I hear 22nd? Is that what I heard for?
The 22nd for the cutoff for the survey.
Okay.
And then obviously, we're going to have to set constituent meetings that you want Tony and I at probably earlier on that week.
Okay, so you can gather, because that's more qualitative data,
Right.
or quantitative data, qualitative. Gather it early in the week so you can get it ready for Friday.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, actually, Friday, let's see here.
Friday would-
I'm just looking at the timeline here, sorry.
It's okay.
that's okay, we're
Because
looking.
right now, we had, the deadline was 4/13, we're making it the 22nd now. And then we have to have some time to go ahead and compile all that information, because you see, we were supposed to come back and meet with you on the 19th. So we would have to push that back maybe to the 27th, 28th,
So
to
Ryan,
push it back like we are everything else a week.
so Ryan,
Okay.
just to confirm, you have 8 a.m. as the deadline. That typically doesn't work for our families. It's usually by end of day. So my question would be, do you want it for it to end on the 21st by the end of the day? Because usually what happens is folks wait until that evening, and I usually don't cut off the survey until the next morning.
That's perfectly fine, so we can make it the 21st.
So midnight, 11:59?
Sure, that does work.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Good question.
No, yeah.
Good point.
And the thing is, it's like what Sandy was saying, doing this up front where we're like really engaging our community, if we don't take this time up front, it's gonna be disastrous. So I think we all know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I think
we better
that's safe.
extending this a little bit.
Yeah, I just had to verbalize.
No, I'm agreeing.
So pushing this back a week, which I agree, if you guys think that that's important, then that's the way to go. What days and how many days do you think that Tony and I, being in two separate locations, meeting with people for 45 minutes at a time, will that be enough for one day? Or would you think we would require 2 days?
Well, let's start talking through one.
Go ahead.
So point of clarification, tell me, I'm not exactly clear what these 45-minute, are they focus group-ish? And so you have the 33, so what is different of that than is the online survey?
Okay, so the online survey is the 33 characteristic survey that I was talking about.
Right.
Now, what the question, how many of you actually have gotten to meet with Tony today? Reed?
All of us.
All of
Except for,
us.
Yeah, four
My
out of
schedule
five.
changed today.
Okay, so 4 out of 5. So the 4 of you, those questions that you talked with Tony about, like what's going on in the district that's great, what are some challenges in the district, those are the same questions that we're going to be asking those focus groups, okay? So we want to hear their responses to the same questions that you were asked yourself. So those are the things that we're going to be asking those individuals.
Okay, so kind of a focus group kind of setup. Okay,
Great.
that does
Right.
help.
And we're still doing the town halls, correct? Or however, whatever you want to call those.
Yeah, open forum. So
Open
if
forums.
you wanted to go ahead and have
Say it, Steve.
us meet with people on the 18th, for example, or the 19th, at 7 in the morning, you could have Tony in one location at a high school. I could be at an elementary school at 7 a.m., meet with the forum for 45 minutes. And those are come-you-all meetings. So anybody in the whole community district, doesn't matter who they are, can come and talk to us at those.
Okay.
Okay, so those that's where I was, I think, getting confused. These, what I'll call focus groups, that you want to keep to 20-ish, which totally makes sense, because the nature of them is different than the town hall come-y'alls, and I think
Correct.
our community wants both. And so,
I agree.
okay, and so just to give the quick answer to your question, my sense is 3 of those come-y'alls, whether it be 2 mornings and 1 evening, or 2 evenings and 1 morning, and knowing how travel works, would probably be useful, and then that would be 6 throughout the district. I mean, you can almost do 1 at each of our junior highs, because we have 6 junior highs, and that would give the geographic coverage to our district that I think would be,
The challenge you'll run into is location.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is getting a location for any kind of district event is very challenging.
What about here, since people are used to coming to
Oh my
meetings
goodness.
here?
We have lots of training that's going on, so what we'll need to, I think, 3, just in we usually try to do 4 with the different pathways that we've got coming on board with the high schools. But what we can get on is checking those days to see what would be available.
For
if we
facilities.
tried facilities-wise in the morning or the afternoon to evening. That's going to be your biggest challenge, is trying to find one, because space is very difficult to find during the day because of classes going on, and then evening and testing.
So for the come-y'alls, though, I was thinking like the little theaters, or those might be, those would be filled up for,
We've actually done them in, city libraries, we've done them at event centers, we've done them,
But space is definitely gonna be that's a non-trivial problem.
Yes, so we'll get on it if that's something you're looking for. If what I'm hearing you say is different time of day and the locations district-wide.
So is the board okay with Leanna coordinating with Tony and Ryan in terms of Monday, Tuesday of that week, early in that week, and they can work on finding the locations for the town halls?
Will 2 days of presentations be enough?
I'll just let you know, there are districts that sometimes have 200,000 kids, and we're able to do it in 2 days. So I think 2 days is gonna be just plenty for you all.
Because this will be supplemental to the focus group kind of meetings.
And right now, in the middle, we have 3, right? We have online, which is open to all.
Right.
We have the focus groups, which is open to dedicated and known stakeholders. And then there's the come-y'alls, which is open, again, to everyone else. And some people want to write it down, but some people want to come and see or hear and talk. And so I can't think of any other venue that we would provide that feedback for. And they could still, I mean, sometimes they email us, or other ways, they reach out to us individually, which,
Leanna,
Yes, ma'am.
so we have a conversations with the board on Tuesday the 19th with our Spanish speaking.
Yes.
Could we convert that from a conversations with the board to this type of
Great call.
town hall for our Spanish speaking families?
We could.
Would
We
that?
could.
We have translation services?
Yes, we would have it, typically the way we set it up is 1 interpreter per board member. We could do it that way if that's what you would like. If you have your 4 questions and structure the event to work that way, that would work for our Spanish-speaking families. And then we just figure out for our English-speaking families how that would work. We have not sent out the reminder communication about that event yet, so we could restructure and reformat for you.
there's kind of substantial overlap between what
Yeah.
we try to converse at
Right.
that
I
and
think
the
that's a
kind
great
of conversation.
idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Especially since we're already relying on translation.
Yeah, it just seems like we've already done the work to get them
Yeah.
to come.
And it might already
Good
be
idea.
established.
Right.
Okay.
Does that work?
Got that?
Okay, so I'm tracking here. So it sounds like the survey, we have some good structure, schedule around for the other end of the spectrum, the town halls. Leanna will help support Tony and Ryan in terms of getting Monday, Tuesday, get that structure set up, and focusing on helping folks in different pathways, what
And
opportunities.
if I could, is it
Uh-huh.
Leanna?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Leanna, hi. If you could go ahead, our biggest, I guess Tony's and my boss is Molly in the office. And I can give you her phone number. She can go ahead and work with you to set up all those times and meetings. It's just the office phone number.
Okay.
It's 319
Uh,
393
Okay,
3115. And so she will be your direct contact, to go ahead and get all that set up. All right?
okay, thank you.
Great. So let's,
Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, it might be a good time for the school board to talk about stakeholder groups. So I am
Wait,
going,
this is your topic.
yeah, no, are we good, do you have any more questions, Ryan, on the, was I jumping ahead too quickly, on the town hall?
Yes, so if the 18th and 19th were good for our constituent meetings, and on the 21st is going to be the deadline. So during those meetings, we can still push people, hey, if you know of anybody, continue to put out the word that we need these surveys completed. So that is on the 21st, and I'm looking, we were supposed to come back and meet with you on 4/19. So now that that's on the 21st, what day are we going to come back? If you look at your timeline on stage 2 at the very bottom, when are we going to come back and present that information to you?
How much time do you guys need to turn it around?
Well, let's see, we gave ourselves from 4/13 to 4/19, so almost a week. So we could probably do it on the 28th.
Is that the earliest?
Yeah, that's probably the earliest date, Ryan?
Yeah, because there's 2 days in there that are weekend.
Okay.
Maybe we could do the 27th.
For people's calendars, Wednesdays are less good than Thursdays for me.
Thursday's good for me.
Thursday mornings are good for me.
Do you have a preference? I could do either Thursday morning.
Thursday the 28th
It's
morning.
fine. Thursday.
Yeah,
That seems
How's
like,
Thursday morning? Ryan?
Thursday morning is fine.
Are we talking
Now, that's
Thursday
gonna
morning
be-
at
That's gonna be
9?
one of those that's gonna be one of those meetings that Tony, can go ahead and be up there, and I can be on the phone to save the district money and expenses.
sounds fine.
sounds
Okay,
good.
That works.
So this is the, but to clarify, this is the promotional flyer, finalize the flyer.
Yes.
That's the purpose of that meeting.
Yeah, you're going to, what we're gonna do is, finalize the promotional flyer, the online application form. We're gonna present you with all the information of what we found from your stakeholder groups and what we found from, your online surveys. And then on that date, we are going to, give you, based on what we've heard, we feel that these are the most important things in your superintendent search, based on talking to your community and yourselves, and this is your profile. And once you sign off on that profile, boom, we can start it into the flyers and the application process.
Great. And that's 9 to noon, is that what we're thinking? Is that a 2-ish, 3-ish hour?
How much time do we need, Ryan?
For what?
For the the morning of the 28th?
Oh, for the morning of the 28th? Oh, I'm thinking, again, boards are different. I would think that we could do it, early in the morning, that's fine.
Not, I can't do before 9.
9 o'clock?
9 to 11, would 2 hours be enough?
Yeah, 2 hours
We
is
can,
fine.
we can block 3 just in
Let's
case.
block 3.
Let's block 2.
Motivate us to get it
I'd rather
done.
meet less days.
Yeah, no, I know.
9 to noon,
We'll
9 to
block
noon,
out
and
9 to
if it takes less time, better.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so 9 to noon, and I'll go ahead and I'll put your time. And
Awesome.
then, if we look at that, we have a deadline for all application materials. So if we're looking to, the deadline was 4/19, and now, we need almost a month.
Right.
So that would put us from the 28th to May, we could do 27th. That would be a Friday.
May 27th, all right.
So that's 4
So
weeks,
that's the
4 weeks for
stage
the
three.
advertisement,
Yeah.
essentially, yeah, okay.
Okay, so deadline to apply
That's
will
before.
now be May 27th. And then that would push, because we originally had from 5/16 to 5/23, so that would be the 27th to, we're going to need a week to vet and do all the background checks. So now you're looking at
I'm gone.
6/3.
Pretty early at this date.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So maybe June 3rd, to
For,
come back and present candidates.
Yeah,
so that's the first to do under stage 4, am I following that correctly?
Yes,
So that's, instead of 523, it's 6/3?
okay,
it would be 6/3. I'm just trying to make sure again that follows the timeline of what we previously had. Deadline was 5/16, and now we're making it 5/23.
We know Kimberly has a winner there.
yeah, so I'm gone from basically June 27th, but that doesn't mean I can't be available like that.
May 27th or June?
June.
Okay,
Down there, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm just, like, the heads up, I'm gonna miss 2 board meetings, but I'll
Okay.
be on the phone for one of them.
So we'll see if we bump into
I'm
that.
sorry, but finish June 27th
June
until,
27th until July, I'll be gone that first whole week of July. I might be back for the second.
so we need to conclude the process before June 27th.
Preferably not, but I could be here by phone.
Well, we have to be done by June 27th.
That's why I was, there's other constraints.
But I'm letting you guys know the heads up for me.
Well, that's right, but I thought you were saying May 27th because we were.
No.
Okay, so June 3rd, Friday, June 3rd
Friday, June 3rd.
is the initial list of candidates. And how long does that take, ish? Is that a 3-hour?
Right.
And that would be an executive session, I'm guessing, then.
Yeah, evaluating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so 2
So
hours?
here's the situation.
Okay.
That's gonna be our longest meeting. When we come back and we present candidates to you on, June 3rd,
Mhm.
you can go ahead and block about a 4-hour window.
Okay.
I've seen it done in 3 hours, I've actually seen it done in 2.5. It just depends. You're gonna have a lot of time to go through that stuff individually and, do the matrix on your own and then come together as a group and build some consensus.
Okay.
So,
Even maybe 5.
about 4 hours.
4 hours, okay.
So 9, starting at 9 AM on
Yeah.
Friday? Okay.
Let's say 9 to 1:30 so we can build in some breaks. Does that sound good on the 3rd?
I like breaks.
Lunch?
Yes.
And maybe 9 to 2.
We can do
Well, actually, a lot of the boards, you guys can do it however you want, but a lot of boards make it a working meeting. So they'll actually bring in lunch and have some snacks, because you're gonna get hungry sitting there for a while.
Oh, yes.
Doing this work.
That's one thing maybe we had.
So you know what we'll do is
Let's just build in 5, and then if it's an hour less, we just
we
have
can
the
always
time.
leave early. Yeah, if folks want to block on their personal calendar 9 to 2.
That's what I'm gonna do.
I'll do that.
Okay. So then, if we are presenting candidates to you on the 3rd, it looks like you would probably start interviewing candidates the next week.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to give some candidates some time. I mean, we're making this decision on the 3rd, maybe 9th or 10th.
That was the,
We've got some graduations the afternoon of the 9th. They're not big classes, but they are ceremonies and they will
it'll take some time.
take some time and some board member attention.
So are these the interviews that we do, the video one, and this is like the 8 to 12? Usually.
No. So we're going to present candidates to you, those 10 to 12 candidates on the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
On the 3rd, you're going to go through the matrix system, and you could narrow it down possibly to 5 or 6 maybe. So that would be a first round interview in person the next week. And then the next week would be the second round interviews, and then you guys should have some talks about who you want to select.
Okay, so
There's
there's,
the first round interviews in person.
okay, right, but just so I get the numbers, we'll have 10-ish candidates on the 3rd, then we'll probably go 6-ish candidates a week later, and then
Correct.
3-ish candidates the week following, and then choose after that. That's the typical. Okay, just
And
That is correct.
the interviews are with us?
Yes,
Only,
Yes,
yes.
okay.
only.
I think we gotta do
Now,
it.
one of the quick questions that I have, well, that it's coming up on the timeline, so I'll just remember to write it down. It has something to do with that, so,
Ryan, can I offer just something here? I think
yes.
there's a desire for, if I heard correctly, there's a desire from the board to present the semifinalists to the community and to allow the community to, similar to what happened in Kent,
And then,
where the community members had an opportunity to submit questions and generic questions, and there was a person that emceed it and presented questions to the candidates for a response.
That is always an opportunity, that's something that we can talk about further, if you wish, around June 3rd when we present those candidates and we're there in person with you on how you want to go ahead and do that.
I
but
think
that's something that we would need to give sufficient notice to our community.
Right, and
And put it in the papers
Yes.
and,
right, and I think there's, from what I've heard from doing the background checks, there's substantially different practices that we could do, whether or not you announce the semifinalists and go through that phase, or whether the board just chooses the semifinalists down to the final three that you present to the community. There's no
That's correct. There's
right way to do
There's numerous
that.
ways we can do it.
Okay.
And I guess I might as well just ask this question.
final two.
Per law, as like, for example, in the state of Wisconsin, if you get to below 4 candidates, you have to release the names to the public. Okay? Is there a law like that in Washington?
No,
We're all looking at me.
no, there is no law that specifies.
Okay, so that's good, because we want to make sure that these candidates, are still in the game, and that they're not worried that, somebody back home is going to know that as soon as they apply or something like that, that their name's going to be released.
Yeah.
well, and I, personally, I respect that, but when we're getting down to semifinalists, at that point,
So when,
I feel like at Edmonds, they put it in the newspaper, they allowed their community members to come on a Saturday for those interviews.
so just so I'm following what you're saying, so when you say semifinalists, you mean kind of the
The
group of
six.
3?
6.
The 6-ish.
They
Oh, the
did 6
six-ish.
at Edmonds.
Because I don't know what I heard about that.
Yeah, and now when you get into 5 and 6, I caution you, because when you're at 3, you have at least a 33% chance that your board's not going to know that you went out looking for a job. I mean, but when you get 4 or 5 or 6, again, it's completely up to you, but I just want you to be aware of that.
Yeah, 'cause
And
I know
if you
someone
put
with
that
a-
out there, that you are going to release names when it gets to 6, some people are going to look at that application and go, do I really want to fill this out?
Yeah.
Well, my other concern, and it's sort of related, is the timing of where we're at this point when we're down to 5 and 6. Because I'm looking at the calendar, the 11th is all our local college graduations. The 14th is all of our comprehensive high school graduations. So many families are going to be focused on having celebrations that weekend of the 11th and 12th. I'm concerned.
And our last day of school is that Friday the 7th.
And our last day of school is Friday the 17th. I'm beginning to get worried this is going to get lost in the shuffle of the end of the school year. And again, getting back to that legitimacy issue of
There's no doubt it'll compete. And then I guess the question is what would be, step back from the timeline, because I have a similar concern. What would be the perfect time to have, I think there's 2 questions on the table. One is what would be the perfect time to have the finalist interviews, which is the 3-ish, and the other one that's still, I think we have some need to hammer out amongst ourselves is do we want to list the semifinalists by name?
Right, and I guess the reason I'm asking that is that then tips my semifinalist interview is if we can't, if the time becomes such an issue that we're trying to get to the finalists, that the time that it would take to do the semifinalist interview impacts that negatively, then the question is what's more important to us?
And one board I know they just did it in a weekend. They did the semifinalist interviews on Saturday, and they did the finalist interviews on Sunday. And it depends upon how much and which kinds of.
Not only
Huh?
that.
Well, there was reasons to like it, to dislike it, but given the calendar
Right.
and how it's very important, so people have it there, but do we want it to be done and be visible in that week of the 10th, the 6th to the 10th? Do we want to do it when it's competing with graduation and/or for the 2024? One thought on graduation, so thinking through the families, if I have a graduate, the next superintendent becomes a little bit less important to me than if I have a second grader. But I think we need to be cognizant of everyone's interest and ability to participate. And so, just from looking, so I like, if we get the chance to pick the perfect date for the interviews, I don't know what that is.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah,
Well, again, these interviews are with you, right?
well, I think
These are not public interviews.
which one? The semifinals or the finals?
Obviously, the first one, when we present on the 3rd, that's when we present, and then the next week, which we were thinking maybe like the 9th or 10th,
I can't do the
those
night,
are,
but the other day.
those are with you.
Well, that's where we're having.
Yeah, I think that's still a
conversation.
question, is whether or not we want to do the semifinalists. I would feel comfortable if we did semifinalists without giving the names publicly. If we had, I'd be more comfortable, I guess, with 4 names than 3 names, just for whatever reason. I mean, I think we're getting a lot of feedback. I think we represent very different views and frames, the 5 of us, and we listen. I think we're really connected to that. I think we see the feedback, so I don't think we're not going to represent our community. And it is our job and our choice, but I think our community definitely wants to meet and greet. So,
I think that's a perfect opportunity when you get down to the 2 or 3, not 6.
okay. So then, what's the time for, Kimberly, are you comfortable with that, or do you?
You know, just one more thought on that too, is just based on some interactions we've had with the public before, when options for, say, a calendar change were presented to the public before a previous board had the opportunity to really zone in on what they wanted, and then what the public chose was different from what the board ended up choosing, and then there was conflict. You know, I think going with the finalists, where we're all pretty solid about these, and then having that impact, that input is helpful, and we don't run the risk of having someone that stakeholder groups might love that we don't put through to the finalists. I mean, it's kind of it could be a risky move that could generate some stress in the stakeholder groups, going with a larger group of candidates.
Another consideration too is travel. If there's folks that come from an airplane flight away and they're interviewing on the 10th, you know, could they be held over the weekend maybe and then brought as finalists in that same trip versus releasing folks to come back and asking them to come back 5 or 6 days later? Could we do that? Get a list down to 2 or 3 on the 10th and then have the community involved over the weekend, the 11th and 12th?
For this finals?
No,
I
or
think,
semifinals?
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I'm sorry, David, for the finals or
We don't have
semifinals?
We don't have a UW.
So having the finalist interviews over the
So Sandy
weekend?
has a UW graduation on
Get 2
Saturday.
or 3,
On
Weekends are
which day?
challenging for families.
the 11th through the 13th.
Weekends can be challenging for
But
families.
Edmonds did it on Saturdays,
I think they did their semifinalists on Saturdays.
and their finalists the next Saturday. They did 2 Saturdays.
And I think, right, and.
I was watching it closely.
And again, if we had months to do this, then all things were possible. That weekend, I know there's families that there are many things happening that weekend.
Right. So, and I don't disagree, I like David's idea. What's from looking at the calendar, what's the best day or days? Especially if we do David's suggestion
Right.
of maybe bring the semifinals out and we do semifinals with just the board.
On the
A
10th.
few days after that, we do the
Monday.
finalists
Monday.
with the community.
Yeah.
So then that would be Monday the 13th.
Does that
What
work?
do you guys think about that?
I'm fine with that.
The candidates
I
typically,
would, if you do, let's say you interview 3 people hypothetically on like maybe the 9th, and then 3 people on the 10th. And
No, I
then
can't
you're
do the
asking
9th.
them-
So it'd have to be the 10th, 11th.
Or
Let- let-
Let
yeah,
him
yeah.
let him finish
You
the
know.
proposal, and then we'll,
Yeah.
and I find 2 days.
So, yeah, you don't want to do 6 in one day, you'll kill yourself.
Right.
I mean, it's just too much information, but if you do 3 on the 10th and then 3 on the 11th, or 3 or 2, depending, and then asking them to stay and then bring them forward publicly, like on the 13th. Is that what you're proposing?
Does that match what you guys have done?
I've seen that happen. We have done that. That hasn't been a problem. It's just sometimes if you have that candidate come in on the 10th and interview, hotel-wise, if they come in from, say, Indiana, you're going to have a hotel for that person on the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th.
Oh, yeah, because we'll be paying for the whole weekend.
The alternative is maybe we do the interviews on the 11th or the 12th.
But then you're paying for their flight twice. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know which.
I'm not saying have them fly twice, I'm saying instead of
Oh,
doing
okay.
Friday, have them come later. So we
Fine.
can spend our weekends doing this work with candidates versus having them spend an extra day.
Or the further away ones, you could have doing the second day of the interviews, if we're gonna have 2 days of interviews. And then that just, and that also is more conducive to their schedule for those who have to
So
travel.
one day would be for the local
The
candidates?
first day would be local candidates, the second day would be out-of-state candidates, a day to, rest or process, and then the public day.
What is your experience on this?
Well, this is a really tight timeline.
Yeah, and why, help me understand why that's a tight timeline. What are some of the other issues that we're not thinking of?
No, I think you're thinking of them. It's just this is a really tight timeline.
Oh, the whole thing.
Overall.
It's not
Um,
between semifinals and finals is
And
not
it
tight.
ultimately will depend, it will depend on how many candidates you're bringing in
Mhm.
for the finalists. Whether or not you can complete that in one day, or if you need 2 days to complete that. And ultimately, it will depend on how many candidates you have and how you want to engage the community.
Okay.
And you run into a little bit of challenge that week as well with graduation being on a Tuesday.
Mhm.
So those are just things to think about
Okay.
as you're planning.
But the timeline between the semifinals interviews and the finalists component, that time, if we do that within a couple of days, that's not too tight. That's not
It
what you're
shouldn't be
saying.
a problem if
Okay.
there's no community engagement in the semifinalist selection process.
Okay.
If you're wanting
Let
to
me ask
engage community.
How are like the 14th and 15th? Because these candidates are not it's not gonna be a problem for them if they're interviewed on the 11th and they fly home for a couple of days and they have to be back on the 15th or 14th.
We can't do the 14th, we have high school graduations all day.
Okay?
That's
What about
it,
the
it's a district.
15th and the 16th?
Is,
Again, we're still in the same timeline because
Right.
we're always pushing this back further a week. So we're still originally a week later than our original timeline that we had.
what is the 16th like? Because it's 2 days after graduation,
Yeah.
the other kids are still in school, no one necessarily should be leaving the district, because that was originally the last day of school, but some people may be heading out of
Yeah, I
town.
think the 15th and 16th look lovely.
What do you think?
You know,
And I think that would be better for a candidate to fly in, interview with you, go back to their family, maybe their school district, and then come back again. I think that would probably be best.
so we can work that into the timeline. I think it's the last day for our little kindergarten families, but as long as we've got a clear timeline, we can communicate that with families. Regarding it is a challenge that last week of school, our brains are going to summer mode.
It's hard.
But
Yeah.
we will do our best to make sure that it's front and center for folks to know, here's how you can be engaged.
And then on the semifinalist component, the 9th and the 11th are days that are not going to work.
Right, I thought it said that, the 9th and the 11th.
Why is it the
Okay.
11th one?
I have a kid graduating.
We have a board member that can't make the 9th
And 11th.
And the 11th.
and the 11th.
Is that board member Scott?
Huh?
That's what we've always had, good luck with board members being able to Skype in.
No, I have a retreat at work. It's all day.
Yeah. And I have a kid graduating from the UW. You don't want to be viewing
On
that
the
from-
11th?
On the 11th from
Okay.
Comcast.
Well, but it's just good to know, so the 11th is out,
Yeah.
and the 9th is also out?
Well, what are the chances we
So
can
why
get
don't we do the-
semifinalists on the 8th?
Yeah, could we do the local on the 8th and or whatever? Could we do one group on the 8th and one group on the 10th?
What Tony and I can do is when we, let them know on the 3rd, we can let them know that the 8th and 10th are options. I mean, if they want the job, I think that's enough time for them to go ahead and move things around, to be there on the 8th. So I don't,
Or
I
the
think
10th
critters
and the
are around.
12th, Sunday.
what I